Hello, welcome students to Future Guide Academy. I'm your tutor, Mr. Perry K. Now, this morning, for those that are in senior classes, we are looking at chemistry. Now, the topic that we are looking at this morning is elements, compounds, as well as molecules. So as we undergo this topic, you should be able to identify what a molecule is, define what a compound is, as well as what an element is. Now let's begin. The first thing that we are looking at is elements. Now let's start with defining what an element is, and then thereafter we're going to give different examples under elements. Now, what is an element? An element is simply a pure substance that cannot be split by chemical means. We are saying an element is simply a pure substance that cannot be split into simpler forms by chemical means. So we write that one. Any pure substance that cannot be split into simpler forms by chemical means. Meaning, as we have defined an element, when we are talking about an element, this is any substance that is what? Pure. But a key part on how we can identify this is that this substance that we are talking about cannot be divided by any chemical means. Now, let's give an example. A very good example that we have, let's talk about an element which is iron, Fe. Now this element iron, when you find it, it cannot be split by any chemical means. Another very good example, we've got sodium, which is an element, and the symbol is Na. Another very good example is copper. When it's pure, you cannot separate it by any chemical means. So if someone gives you an element, just know to say when we are talking about dividing or splitting it, it's something that is impossible. These are the examples that we've given out. Let's look at the second part, which is compound. Which is what? Compound. Now, what is a compound? A compound is simply a mixture. A compound is simply a mixture or a combination of two or more elements which are chemically combined. We are saying this is a combination of two or more elements which are chemically combined. That is what we call a compound. We are saying combination of two or more elements which are chemically. Get to this point? What we mean when we say chemically? Meaning it's impossible for you to split the combination of those two things because they are chemical, and sometimes new substances are usually what? Formed. When we are talking about combination, chemical reactions, there is a physical one and a chemical combination. But when we are talking about a compound, these elements that we are talking about are chemically combined. Let's give an example of a compound. We have 1, what we have in water, which is H2O. Now, when you take here, we've got two elements, which is hydrogen as well as what is oxygen. Now, these two that we have here, the two elements are chemically combined. That is why we are forming a substance which is what is water. And we mentioned earlier on to say in a chemical reaction where two elements chemically combine, there is a possibility of forming new what? Substances. That's why here we've got what we call what is water in a combination of hydrogen as well as what is oxygen. What other example do we have where we can talk of a compound? Take for instance simple sugars. Simple sugars such as glucose. You are going to find that there is a combination of hydrogen, there is a combination of carbon, there is also a combination of what? Oxygen. These three elements, when they combine, they give us a simple sugar, which is what? Glucose. Meaning they have chemically combined. Other simple salts. We have got other simple salts. Another example of a compound. Simple salts, we are saying simple what? Salts. Now, under simple salts, remember to say mostly the major element that you find in salt is sodium. But mostly you are going to find that sodium is reacting with what? Chlorine. That is what we call sodium chloride. So we've got sodium reacting with what? Chlorine. It will give us sodium chloride, which is a simple salt. So for us to come up with this salt, you're going to find that the elements are chemically combined. So once elements are chemically combined, they are going to give us what we call a compound. Those are very good examples of compounds. Let's go to the last part, which is molecules. Which is molecules. Now, how best are we going to define what a molecule is? How best are we going to define what a molecule is? Now, when we are talking about a molecule, we are talking about a simple substance. A simple substance where when its elements are divided, they will not lose their properties. We are saying a molecule is a simple pure substance where when the elements are divided either by chemical means, they will not lose their what? Properties. Let's try that one. We are saying simple pure substance where when its elements are divided, they will not lose their properties. So when we are talking about molecules, mainly these also we are going to see how they exist in nature. But when their substances are divided, the key part here is that they do not lose their what? Properties. Now, when we are talking about molecules, you are supposed to know how their structures are. Molecules can be grouped into a number. For instance, when we are talking about helium, which is a molecule, we have helium, which is He. Now, this one exists as a molecule. Why? Because the outer shell of this element is already what? Stable. And this one is a non-metal. So the structure of this one, it's monatomic, meaning it exists on its own. So we can say this one, it's monoatomic molecule. Why? Because how many atoms do we have? We only have one. The other part, we have got molecules which are diatomic. Molecules which are diatomic. Now, when we are talking about diatomic molecules, we are simply talking about those which have got 2 atoms. Those which have got how many atoms? 2. A very good example, we've got oxygen, 2 atoms of oxygen. These can be separated, but they will not lose their what? Properties. We also have got carbon monoxide. That one, it's a diatomic what? Molecule. Reason? Carbon is bonding with 1 atom of what? Oxygen. There are many other diatomic what? Molecules. Apart from diatomic, we also have got polyatomic molecules. Now, polyatomic molecules, what you are supposed to know is that they have got more than 2 atoms. These are molecules which have got more than 2 atoms. A very good example, we've got water, which is H2O. 2 atoms of hydrogen with 1 atom of oxygen. We also have got CO2, which is carbon dioxide. So all these have got more than 2 atoms. As a result, they are called polyatomic molecules. So those are various examples of molecules. So by now, you should be able to define what an element is, what a compound is, as well as what a molecule is, including their examples. So thank you very much for following. May you continue following Future Guide Academy, and remember to follow our Facebook page and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. See you in the next lesson.